thank you very much for coming and welcome. This is the 2014 London Rugby League Awards.
I'm here in a room of 100 or so people, all here celebrating the season of rugby league they've just played.
We've had good consistency across the competition, which is one of the key things that we really need.
That's Darren Pugsley. He heads up rugby league in London for the RFL, the governing body. With funding cuts for the sport across the country, though, it's been a tough year for the junior leagues and the amateur game in London.
I think it's a benchmark of realism, so this is where we are, this is where we can be.
I'm pleased we've clearly created a foundation since the middle of the last decade.
Martin Coyd is the chairman of the London Junior League.
We've got this fantastic organisation which will support championship teams and a Super League club. And we've got that foundation now. It's down to us volunteers and people involved in the game to make that work, and this is the key bit. If we work together, we can do it.
My name's Max Savage. I play loose forward for Medway Dragons. The physicality and speed is just so much fun. It's a lovely rough game, I love it.
My name's Atul Lakaratavur and I won the Under-15s Man of Steel award today. I love the defence because I just love tackling people, I just find it so fun.
It's these lads that will be the Dan Sargentons, Tony Clubbs and Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrooks of the future. Louis tonight playing in his second Super League Grand Final for Saints after losing to Leeds in 2011.
The pressure was immense, and the pressure I put on myself and the atmosphere and but hopefully this time it won't swallow me up and spit me out. It'll just give me a nice nudge in the right direction.
3 years later, and products of the London Rugby League system meet for the first time in the season finale as Louis goes up against Wigan's Dan Sargentson and Tony Clubb.
I've only played him once this year, and that was on a Good Friday, and in the game we never tackled each other, so that was a bit weird.
Clubby going face to face with Louis sees two friends, former London colleagues and now neighbours going head to head.
You know, we come through all the academies together, we played amateur together at Greenwich. We made our debuts the same year. We made our debuts for England the same time, and we formed a really, really good friendship. I've got an absolute ton of respect for him, and it's good to have him just round the corner. But roll on sort of Saturday, and it'll be a different thing for him.
The two of them trained together at Greenwich Admirals Amateur Club as teenagers.
We were Sutcliffe Park in the middle of an athletics track on a wet and windy Thursday night, and they came down for their first training session.
Jason Henley was coaching at the club at the time.
Louis was a bit of a cheeky, good running loose forward for us, whereas Clubby was a skinny, very quiet, head guard wearing fullback.
He was fantastic for me and Louis. He always said to us, just go out there and enjoy it. That's what we did, and that's what I think made me sort of fall in love with rugby league. That I really enjoyed playing down here at Greenwich, and I can't speak highly enough of him. And a big part of what me and Louis are doing now goes down to him.
And Clubby is all too sure that the three playing at Old Trafford this evening certainly won't be the last.
London have produced such great players. There's players all over the league at the minute playing well, and there's still some really great players there at London. It's not in the best of places at the minute, but it will get back there because, like I said, it will just keep producing great young kids.
And the final line goes to Jason Henley.
Everybody that's been involved in London Rugby League at some stage during the course of the last 10-15 years and moving forward should be sitting there in front of the TV or up at Old Trafford thinking, we've played a part in this, we've played a part in history.
Welcome to another Rugby League Down South podcast. That's a feature I made for BBC London 94.9 that aired at the weekend. You can hear more from the interviews that made up the package coming up on the programme. Pre-grand final, we talked to Wigan's Tony Clubb. Of course, the game been and gone now, but we'll talk to the man who trained him and Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrooks as juniors, Jason Henley of the Greenwich Admirals Club. We'll hear also from a few of the people at the London Rugby League 2014 Awards. Darren Pugsley of the RFL and Martin Coyd of the London Junior Leagues and the Community Division as the chairman there. And a speech from Rob Powell as well, the Medway Dragons head coach and recently appointed the London Broncos head of youth. So we'll hear a few words from him. But welcome once again, of course, to another Rugby League Down South podcast. Always great, and thank you for your downloads and listens. It's been going well. The latest podcast which we had, so we thought we'd do this around the Super League Grand Final. I was asked to make a piece, that piece that you just heard, in fact, for BBC London. So the interviews that I did on the way, thought I'd stick in a podcast and gather them all together so you can hear it. So they're not comprehensive interviews as such, although the chat with Clubby is quite long. But here's the interviews that I just thought you might like to hear the extended versions. Of course, the Super League Grand Final was on Saturday. We'll leave the game to one side. There's probably been enough dissection of the match, hasn't there? But before it, I did catch up with Wigan's Tony Clubb, of course, a man who left Broncos, didn't he? Not a great fashion, really. Not necessarily falling out with the club or its fans, but just not happy with how things were going, and made it quite clear, and was the captain at the time. Not great to see, but has been developing further since he's been at Wigan, and of course, now in the Super League, or having played in the Super League Grand Final. Unfortunately for him, he was on the losing side. But before it all took place, I had a chat with him about his development, how he's gone so far, how he's been enjoying it at Wigan. And so here are the thoughts of the former London captain, Tony Clubb, talking about how he feels going into the Super League Grand Final, how he felt going into that Super League Grand Final. Here's my chat with Clubby, and we sat down to record, and I sort of clicked the record button, and he was just telling us that, in fact, Louis lives just round the corner from him now.
Lives just round the corner from me, so it's. But no, he's the same. You know, he's excited. You know, and me and Dan are really excited being our first grand final, and you know it means to be for a good one. So you know. It's going to be good.
Cool. I've started recording, if that's all right. Just so that you know. Clubby, well, I mean, it's a massive game, isn't it? You know, but I guess this. I won't say it validates your reason for leaving London, because you know you weren't leaving to you know, with a particular reason to go and be in a grand final. But this shows that you had that capacity inside you.
Yeah, definitely, and you know it probably did come a bit quicker than what I expected, you know, going to a grand final in my first year with Wigan. But, you know, same as last week, that big game against Warrington, they're the games that I wanted to play in. And, you know, sort of no sort of disrespect to London, I wouldn't have got it there. You know, and that's why I made the move north. And, you know, lucky enough this year it's paid off for me, and I've played in some really big games this year, and, you know, there'll be none bigger than Saturday. So it's you know, it's sort of no disrespect to London, but I wouldn't have got them games there.
How are you feeling ahead of Saturday?
I was all right, but then we went to Old Trafford and had a look about, and it sort of it hit home a bit then. Our bigger game it really is, and you know it's always going to be a big game with Wigan St Helens. You know, I didn't realise how much sort of rivalry there was until I came up the north, and they really do go at it, Saints and Wigan. So it'll make for a real good final. But me personally, I just, you know, I'm starting to get a bit nervous now, but I just can't wait for Saturday now.
In terms of you and your development, it does seem like you've continued to improve as a player since you've been with Wigan. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Sean's been massive in that. He really is a top class coach. His man management is excellent, you know, and I couldn't speak highly of him. And you know, I've only been here, you know, 8-9 months with him, but he really is a good coach. He's really switched on, and you know, he knows how to get the best out of the players, and that's why, you know, the boys are playing so well. But on the flip side of that, he's, you know, I consider him a friend. You know, if it weren't rugby related, I know that I could call Sean and he would help me out in that respect. So he really has helped me development there.
What about the prospect of facing a fellow Londoner and a man that you know very, very well on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be good. You know, I've only played him once this year, and that was on a Good Friday, and we never met. In the game, we never tackled each other, so that was a bit weird, but I'm sure it'll change this weekend. You know, he'll be fired up, the same with us. And but no, it'd be good. You know, it's, you know, on the sort of flip side, I don't want him to lose, but I don't want to lose myself. So it'd be a difficult one, but, you know, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. So whatever it is, we'll still be friends, you know, and we'll still shake hands after it. So that's always good.
Just tell me about the relationship that you've got as a friendship, because, I mean, you know each other and you go well back, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We, you know, we come through all the academies together. We played amateur together at Greenwich. We did all that, you know. We made our debuts the same year. We made our debuts for England the same time, and, you know, and on top of that, we formed a really, really good friendship. You know, we travelled around the world together, and you know, it's a friendship that will last. And, you know, I've got an absolute ton of respect for him, and, you know, and his family, and I'll get on with all his mum, his dad, his sisters, and everyone. So it really is a friendship for life, and it's you know, it's good to have him just around the corner. But, you know, roll on sort of Saturday and it'll be a different thing for him.
How weird will it be? You mentioned that, you know, you were playing in a game against each other and you didn't tackle each other. It's something that I guess you're kind of aware of in a little way.
It is because, you know, as much as your friend, you almost want that sort of bragging right. You know, like, I'm sure that if he gets a chance to whack me, he'll do the same. You know, and it'll be the same for me. If I get half a chance, you know, I'll try and give it to him. But like I said, after the game, you sort of shake hands and you get on with it. But it is weird because you sort of, like you say, you do sort of look for it and things like that. But I think that's what makes it more exciting.
And what about, obviously we should mention Dan Sargentson, you know, being with you on the Wigan side as well. It's good, isn't it, to see the London lads, and a bit has been made of the London lads as well ahead of this final, and getting a bit of attention for what the sport has done. You mentioned before, it's not been a great couple of years, has it, in terms of the professional team down here, but this does go to show that, you know, that the talent that the capital can produce can be of the highest calibre.
Yeah, definitely. There's, you know, I know that it's only sort of highlighting me, Louis and Sargi, and being in the grand final, but London have produced such great players, you know. And there's players all over the league at the minute playing well and things like that, and, you know, they've definitely produced some really, really great players, and there's still some really great players there at London. So it shows that they can produce it, you know, and that's where I sort of feel from a bit, you know. It's hard to sort of keep hold of them when, you know, they're not winning and things like that, but it just shows that they can produce great players. And
you mentioned as well that you and Louis played together at the amateur levels at Greenwich. I've just been down to talk to Jason, who was your coach. What do you remember of your days then, and being coached by Jason?
As it goes, he texts me today as it goes. No, mate, he was fantastic for me and Louis. You know, he pretty much set us on the path. You know, he always said to us, just go out there and enjoy it. And, you know, that's what we did, and that's what I think made me sort of fall in love with rugby league, that I went out there and I enjoyed it, you know, as a flying back then. You know, not as a front rower now, but you know, I really enjoyed playing down here at Greenwich, and it was tough at the time because there weren't that many sort of teams, and we had a pretty good team back then that just used to sort of pummel a lot of teams at the time. But, you know, we still enjoyed playing, and we enjoyed playing with each other, and I think that's what made it so great. And Gus helped us with that, and he looked after us and things like that, and you know, I can't speak highly enough of him. And, you know, from there, Phil Jones was on the back of it, and he got us over into London there. So it was, you know, a big part of what me and Louis are doing now goes down to him.
And I just want to mention as well one other guy who's had a hand in your development, Louis' development, and Dan Sargent to an extent, in that Brian McDermott, now coaching of Leeds, he said this week, that when you look at what's happening, and he's obviously had first-hand experience of it, that it works. Is it nice when someone who, again, has been successful in coaching a team, having left London, continues to sort of fly that flag and to sell the game, something that I guess you've been doing ever since you entered this sport?
Yeah, definitely. It's, same again, Macca were great for me and Louis. He really did push us on there, and, under Brian Mack, we made our debut for England coming out of London, and that was fantastic for me and Louis, but London Rugby League in general as well. So, for him to come out and say nice things about us is really nice, and say nice things about London is great. It's not in the best of places at the minute, but it will get back there, because, like I said, it will just keep producing great young kids, and I'm sure it will. I know Kieran's still down. Well, Kieran's left, but a lot of other kids that are still down there, and they'll come through and they'll be good players. They'll be playing in Super League in the next few years. So it just is. How big London is. It's going to produce great young kids. So I hope it just keeps flooding them through.
And I've got to ask: is that the ice cream man? Is it another phone, or is that a kid's toy?
Oh, sorry, that's the ice cream man. I'm not going out to it. Just go past the window.
Well, good luck on Saturday. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Like you say, it's a big occasion, isn't it? But we wish that Londoners could win, but unfortunately, like you say, only one team can. But great achievement that you're all in there for starters, and may the best team win. I think that's probably the fairest way we can put it.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's then the former London captain, Tony Clubb, ahead of the Super League Grand Final. Of course, the game is done and dusted. A victory for St Helens, Clubbing losing out to his best mate in Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook. Of course, we'll probably have to catch up with Louis in a future podcast to find out his thoughts on that Super League Grand Final. But Louis and Clubby first trained together. Oh, so we should mention as well, of course, it shouldn't leave out Dan Sargentson, again on the losing side with Wigan, but one of the standout performers really for Wigan, and what's been a great first year for him at the club. He's done really well, has impressed very many people, so great to see him doing well as well. Now, we mentioned Tony Clubb and Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook trained together initially as juniors at the older club Greenwich Admirals, the club not in existence anymore, but I went to meet one of the men who was behind it and was very actively involved, and to be fair, took on a lot of the responsibility, and a man called Jason Henley, now working for Street League, I think it is, a football sort of charity. Is it a charity or an organisation? But yes, he's working down now. Where did I go to? Down at Oval, to where their offices are, to have a chat with Jason Henley about what he remembered of these players. Of course, a few of these clips you'll have heard in the package that was at the top of the podcast, but this is the longer chat, and I thought it was worth having a good chat with Jason. It's been a while since we caught up. He used to come on our London Rugby League programme on BBC London quite often, to be fair, so good opportunity for us to chat to him about his memories, and of course no longer working within the game as well, so it was interesting to hear how he thought, and have a good chat with what he made of the game at the moment. So here is Jason Henley, a man who used to coach at Greenwich Admirals. Jason, well, first of all, just explain to me how you first got to know, individually, Tony Clubb and Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook.
I think for me, we were in Sutcliffe Park in the middle of an athletics track on a wet and windy Thursday night, and the lads came down. They came down off the back of the Broncos stuff in the schools that they were doing, and they came down for their first training session. Louis was a bit of a cheeky, good running. At the time, he was playing loose forward for us, whereas Clubby was a skinny, very quiet, head guard wearing fullback back then. But yeah, it was a lot of years ago. I think they're both sort of around about the 15 or 16 mark, I think it would have been, back when it was obviously the Broncos were in the area down that sort of way. But yeah, both really nice lads and fine rugby players as well.
Just tell me how they were as players when they were playing with you, because they've obviously gone on to big things, and sometimes people say, they showed those initial talents. They've obviously developed a lot, even in the last couple of years, having moved to bigger Super League clubs. But what were they like when they were with you?
Clubby was always great. I mean, as I said, he was a fullback at the time, so he was always great under the high ball, good strong running and taking the ball back, run great angles. Louis was very much your raw, aggressive, I'll run in a straight line and I'll run steamroll straight over you. I think probably hasn't changed too much in that sort of side of things. But he was always sort of very aggressive in the way he ran and ran the ball hard and fast. And Clubby sort of, as I said, started at full-back and has sort of, I think, for his career has developed and that sort of stuff as he's got bigger and that sort of side of things. So, but yeah, always sort of very good under the high ball, good at running the ball back, coming in, taking the work, and just no nonsense. Rugby players, I think, especially for Clubby, who came from rugby union, that he was playing at the time, to actually get his hands on the ball and start running with it. It was like a dream come true to somebody like that. So yeah, they're both very raw, but you could see they had a certain something, and they were always sort of, when I was ever picking the team, there was always sort of two first names on the team sheet.
What were they like as people? They've obviously got their own individual characters, and I think plenty of people can see that in the media these days. But when they were with you, was it the same?
Yeah, very much so. Two totally different sides of the coin, really, in terms of their personalities. I always remember a story. We were driving, I can't remember which team we were playing, but I was following in the car behind the minibus, and Louis was being pretty cheeky at the back of the minibus to us. I won't tell you exactly what he was doing and that sort of stuff to embarrass him, but he was just that cheeky persona, very confident young man and that sort of side of things, whereas Clubby was very reserved young man. But again, quite confident in both of them in their abilities when they got on the rugby field. So Louis sort of was the same person on and off the field, whereas Tony was very much, the quite reserved guy until he got onto the field, and then that was sort of crossing that white line. He was a different bloke. So yeah, that was it.
Have you kept in touch with them? Do you still sort of hear from them every now and again?
More so Louis, because Louis obviously being a Millwall fan, and when I was working at Millwall and stuff like that, it was we swapped signed shirts and things like that with him. But yeah, I've sent them both texts this week, wishing them all the best. They're kind of sort of between the pair of them, asking who you hoping to win. So, but I'm going to sit right on the fence and hopefully it's a draw. But for me, it's just going to be sort of on a personal level, and everybody that's sort of been involved with them in London, not just myself. The guys that were helping out coaching at the time and that sort of stuff. It's going to be a really proud moment for us all, seeing them sort of go head to head together.
I mean, it's an amazing story, really, isn't it? I mean, and a lot of other media have picked up on it as well with these, London faces in this grand final. The pinnacle of our sport. This is what they trained for. This is why they started at Greenwich Admirals. Okay, you enjoy it, don't you? But you want to get to the top of your sport, and they've got there. Now they are there, and you see them week in, week out. I mean, household names as well. Let's throw Dan Sargentson in there as well. These are players that Super League fans now up and down the country, their name trips off the tongue. They might not even realise where they've come from, but it's great that this area, this patch, London, the systems, the structures are producing those players that are not only going to big Super League clubs, but are playing at the highest level.
I think, it's particularly for Louis and Tony as well at the time when they were coming through. I'm talking junior level here, not even at the Broncos before they even got there. They were, Phil Jones was heavily involved in the coaching there, and so they were getting good coaching week in and week out, from him. And I think because the catchment area was so small, the development of them was quite quick within the game, and the opportunities were obviously probably a lot of doors were open to them that maybe if you were looking at in the Heartlands area necessarily. Wouldn't have been open to them because there was a bigger pool of players and that sort of side of things. But I think that, everyone said it from the top to the bottom of the game that they need to obviously to crack rugby league in London and the top talent coming through and the catchment area of players. And I think with the people like Tony, Louis, Dan, and all those guys that are coming through and playing up north, it's now bearing fruit. The tree's bearing fruit of the hard work that's gone on. Prior to the stuff that's going on in the community now, but even before that, it's starting to bear fruit now, and it can only continue, I think.
I mean, it's interesting to look at it as well because the continued development really of those players carries on even with a bit of a stumble at the Super League or former Super League club, however you want to look at it now, the top level had in the last couple of years. They've still got a competitive under-19 side playing against other Super League under-19 sides. In terms of your work in the community, I know that obviously Greenwich Admirals no longer exist, but from what you've seen, I mean, this is what happens in the community game, isn't it? Teams come, teams go. Sometimes they go on to big things and they have a really long history, and sometimes they don't. But I guess each one plays its part and does something to take the game to more people, to widen it out, to broaden the appeal.
I mean, I definitely think, in terms of what we're doing at Greenwich, I mean, every year we sort of used to go away and go up to Cumbria and play the lads up there. And we were beating teams like Whitehaven and Barrow and that sort of stuff. And even when I was, back in the day when I was working for the Rugby League in London, we were taking representative squads up there to Wigan St Pat's and giving them good games and sometimes coming away with wins. So I think on a junior level, we've always sort of competed really well, purely because, some of the lads down here were big, strong boys, and they were, the physicality of the game really suited them. And I just think what had been missing, it seems to happen now, is the link from obviously the community game into the pro game, and that seems to be coming now. And the pathway seems to be a lot clearer and a lot more established. I think it's probably better to say than clearer. So I think the opportunities for the guys there, has always sort of been there, and I think there will be more players from the London, London and Kent and all that sort of stuff that will come through, and eventually one day, we'll probably be sitting here thinking about, Louis and Tony and Dan playing in the Super League final, but maybe 5-6 years down the line, naming 4, 5, 6, 7 players that are playing in that, and hopefully, touch wood, they're doing it with the London Broncos side that are again successful again and challenging for honours at the highest level.
And you mentioned as well previously you've worked for the RFL, developing the game within London. Just explain how difficult it is, because this process continues to go on, and I mean there are fewer community coaches now than there used to be. The structures have all changed. That things are continually changing from year on year. I mean, it is not an easy job to get London to produce the talent that they are at the moment.
When I was working there, it's kind of like you're banging your head against a brick wall, because you weren't trying. You were selling the sport, more importantly, to people that didn't know what the sport was. So not only to young people and to children in schools, but also to teachers, your PE teachers and your headmasters and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to say to them, look, this is the sport, this is what it can offer. These are the exit routes for young people. But it was very tough to sort of try and get them to understand the benefits of the game to their students, their pupils. But bearing in mind that, particularly when I was doing it, was a very sort of a rugby union was always ingrained in the school system and in the curriculum, and until it was recognised in London as part of the curriculum within PE, you were always going to struggle with trying to get that going in schools, secondary schools particularly. But in saying that, you look at Louis came from a school session, and that, so it is there. They're kind of like the diamonds in the rough that you find out there and about. But it is very tough to to sell the game, not only to the kids but also actually to the schools themselves. And I think with the, I'm going back when I was involved in it. We had 5 or 6 development officers in different boroughs around London, supported by a regional manager. And I think the setup has certainly got smaller since I was working in it due to funding and that kind of stuff. But what Rugby League in London needs is the RFL to sign a cheque for £5 million and say, look, we don't want much return from it. We want the game to grow. We don't want to restrict you in saying we want this amount of people here, there and everywhere. We want the game to grow. And I think that's sort of, it's sort of, for me, one of the ways forward that, will benefit everybody.
So with that in mind, I know people would say that, London, the size of London, should be producing these players. Of course they should, year in, year out, and that is starting to happen, although you could always argue it could be more. But without overplaying this achievement, how big is it, and how much of an achievement is it that this structure is providing and is creating this calibre of players?
I think it's only testament to everyone that's involved in it, from all the volunteers that are they're out there on a Saturday morning coaching kids, to the guys that are out in schools, development officers here, there and everywhere, and that have been, everybody that's been involved in London Rugby League at some stage during the course of the last 10, 15 years and moving forward should be sitting there in front of the TV or up at Old Trafford thinking, we've played a part in this. We've played a part in history here, really. Because without that sort of people sort of having a little bit of input into it, and that's not just me coaching the lads, that's not just but that's other people in other clubs that had gone out there and done the hard work so we could play those guys, and that sort of side of things, and the kids that didn't necessarily make it from that sort of time frame. They should be very proud that they've played a part in these lads and creating history for Saturday's grand final.
I probably spent far too much time chatting to Jason while I was there, taking time out of work. We had a good old natter, just a snippet of what we recorded, really. In fact, it's all of what we recorded is a snippet of what we chatted about. But a man who's still very passionate and very believes in the strength of the game and the future of the game at London the South, and wants to see it continue to grow. So again, the stuff that he did while he was at Greenwich and while that club was going was absolutely vital to, as we see, a number of players now making it to the Super League. And okay, you may not see these clubs continue to exist as such, but the impact and the effect that they've had on the game will always be there, no matter if the club continues to go or not. Of course, we want to see these junior clubs and these amateur clubs go from strength to strength, but it just shows that each plays their part, regardless of what happens. They're all crucial to the support of the sport in the future. Talking of that, then, the London Rugby League Awards were held on Friday up at the Emirates Stadium. The first time I've actually been to the Emirates Stadium, so I had a good look around while I was there. But they were handing out the awards for Man of Steel across the divisions, Volunteer of the Year, Coach of the Year. They obviously recognise on and off field achievements as well. So I went up there to pretty much get a few interviews for the package, as it turned out, for BBC London. But initially I'd been invited there by Cam from the South West London Chargers, who we'll hear from in just a minute. He mentioned that, of course, we could have a chat with him. I've obviously spoken to him a number of times, having had their very successful a couple of seasons, which they have had, but I never met him. So I went along to meet him, of course, but he doubled as an opportunity to get some interviews for the BBC London programme. So first up, we'll hear from Martin Coyd and Darren Pugsley. Spoke to them both together. Martin of the chairman of the junior leagues, and Darren, of course, the man who's in charge of the RFL. And Martin made it very obvious. He stood up to say a few words before the awards took place, and I said, Darren is the only paid member of staff that works on developing the amateur and community game in London. Okay, you've got employed community coaches at clubs, Broncos, etc. Not as many as used to, but the only RFL paid employee that supports the game in London, and Darren's responsibility are bigger than just London as well. The sort of southeast. I think he used to cover the east patch as well, out towards Ipswich and Norwich and stuff. I guess it probably still involves that as well. But got them both together, and again, this was an interview that I was really just chatting to them to make sure that I got the sound bites that I wanted for the BBC package, but of course it gave us an opportunity to talk about a few wider issues. So again, we don't cover massive stuff here. It's not even, I'm not mean to downplay my own interview, it's not even the most enthralling interview as such, but there's a few bits of details in there which you may like to hear. So here's myself chatting with Darren Pugsley of the RFL and also Martin Coyd at the London RL Awards. Darren, how would you summarise then this year in terms of numbers and success?
We've had good consistency across the competition, which is one of the key things that we really need. We've not grown exponentially, we've just been delivering a good standard and plenty of people playing, which is what we want.
Martin, would you say that is a good thing though for this year?
Yeah, I'm pleased. We've clearly created a foundation since the middle of the last decade where the game is sustainable. We have 20 clubs. Some are one man and one team, others are operating 11 teams. So if we get 20 clubs across London, 10 north, 10 south of the river, and everyone's got primaries and juniors and men. We get some with masters, some maybe 4 with wheelchair, maybe 8 with women and girls. We've got this fantastic organisation which will support championship teams and a Super League club, and we've got that foundation now. It's down to us volunteers and people involved in the game to make that work, and this is the key bit. If we work together, we can do it.
Darren, for this year in particular, or sort of moving forward from this year, considering the state that the game is in, I guess almost, it must have been a positive year.
Yeah, absolutely. We've not got a huge army of people delivering rugby league in the schools. That's more down to the clubs to do it. So that's naturally where a lot of players will come from. So I think it's a benchmark of realism. So this is where we are. This is where we can be, and we'll grow steadily from here, as opposed to kind of a boom and bust approach to it. So yeah, it's good.
How happy are you?
I'm very happy. Yeah, I'm. This is the kind of end of the season now, and when I look back, it's tremendous. We've had some good quality games. We've had a fantastic Origin series, which has been the most competitive we've ever had. We went into the last week with one game between the two sides, which we've never had, and that just is testament to where the players are developing as rugby league players. First and foremost, knowing how to play the game, and the coaches in how to coach rugby league as well. So that's a big sign for me.
And you mentioned it as well up at the front, and said a few years ago there were people sat in this room that are playing in a Super League Grand Final at the weekend. I mean, this is tangible, isn't it, for these players? The people who are here are the future of this game.
Oh, 100%. I put the photo up of Joe Keys, who there was a floppy-head kid playing Origin a few years ago, and the next photo was of him scoring a hat-trick against Leeds. That's extremely tangible. And those lads who are literally playing in a grand final tomorrow, and there's not. We've got 3 in the grand final tomorrow. There's other ones besides. You've got people like Mike McMeekin, who would have been sat in this room a few years ago, and he's at Castleford now. And we could probably go on. There's quite a few more, I would dare say, and there'll certainly be more to come.
And just on that pathway, Martin, people have talked about the Broncos, being the pinnacle, but it's not, is it? I mean, the pinnacle is these players playing at the highest level to play in Super League Grand Finals, to get international call-ups as they have, and it does show that if you come through this system, that the world is your oyster.
We don't know yet, but I think the Broncos going down into the Championship may just be a great thing. It may give them the opportunity to re-establish themselves, grow a fan base, get the club right, and get all them key things in place. What we're doing in London Rugby League, having played now Rob Powell's been around a long time, and he was one of the guys who started off the junior stuff 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. We've got people now coming through where rugby league is their sport of choice. It's what they've played since they were, just starting primary school, and they don't think about anything else. This is their game, and key thing is at that age you get their parents as well. So we've got lots and lots of people who are rugby league people. They don't speak like me or Darren, who's Welsh for that matter. They speak with a local accent, and this is the real success. We've got some tremendous volunteers and coaches coming through. And it's ours to take. It really is ours to take. So yeah, growing rugby league players who can play. So Dan Sargent's on a plane going to Australia on Tuesday. So he hasn't even got time to celebrate or sulk about however the grand final goes. He's off, and Clubby and Louis are both England internationals as well. And we really have got a great pathway. And there's good news coming about England all the time from London and the south.
But it does go to show, doesn't it, as well, that these players are playing in the Super League Grand Final. This structure is producing the players of the highest calibre.
No question. There are occasions when we compete with teams from the north at various levels, and we've stopped surprising them. There's now an expectation that teams from London and the south can play rugby league and know what they're doing.
It's always interesting to get the official line, isn't it, from the RFL, and the thoughts of Martin, a man who works very hard and fits into his very busy schedule. A lot of development and support for rugby league within the south. So I hope you enjoyed hearing from them. And like I said, the reason that I was down there initially, I was invited down there by Cam from the South West London Chargers. Also, their guy I've not seen for a long time, Mark Barnes, used to run the West London Sharks, which he mentions in the interview coming up. But it was an opportunity to initially meet Cam and have a chat, and while they won a few awards, I thought it was worth chatting to them as well. So a bit of an intro on the top of this piece as I chat to the guys that are pretty much leading the charge at the South West London Chargers. Well, we're here at the London Rugby League Awards, the end of season awards for 2014. Loads of awards handed out. Man of Steel, we've gone through the primary school educational services as well, and the teams that have played in those competitions, and the men's league as well. One particular name that cropped up quite a lot was the South West London Chargers. They've had a great season. I think I can spot 3 trophies, is that right, Cam?
That's 3, yeah. Player of the Year, Man of Steel, Nathan Brown. Coach of the Year, the great Mark Barnes, and then we also won Club of the Year as well. So
it's not been a bad year.
It's been quite a good year, yeah. As you know, we pretty much won everything we could. And it was with a great bunch of guys, which made it even more special. So it's been great.
We come to an award like this, awards evening like this, and we see sort of how many people are playing the game, how many awards are given out. You know, I guess it just brings it home, doesn't it? As sometimes from week to week, you're going out, you're playing with your team, you see the same guys week in, week out, but there's so many people that sort of do the same thing as what you do.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, they just put up a statistic there before that said that 1,800 people, kids and adults, played rugby league in London. You know, on a weekly basis, which is, you know, when you add to the volunteers and the coaches and the parents that cook the barbecues and everything, and that's a large amount of people that are involved in rugby league, so it's great.
One guy who's been involved for quite a number of years. Barnsley, I'm surprised to still see you going. I don't mean in terms of playing and stuff and being around, but a few years ago, I wasn't sure that you were still sort of wanting to sort of go down the amateur scene.
Yeah, it all depends on what you want to do, but the group of guys that we've got, and when we formed the club, it was just something I didn't want to miss out on. To be involved in rugby league, again, I think it's the best sport in the world. It's probably the hardest sport in the world, and to keep involved, it's something I wanted to do. 10 years is a long time, but it's been a great 10 years as well. I've met some great guys. I've done some good tours. You know, and again, played and coached some great teams. So yeah, I've been really lucky about what we've done. So yeah, I'm happy with it. So yeah.
Cam, just give us the stats then, because I'm sure Mark won't. 11 years, 7 finals,
7 grand finals, winning 5 of them. 5 Harry Jepson finals, winning 3 of them. Throw in a few second division titles and some ladies titles as well. The odd 9s. I'm sure there was some other stuff there as well, but yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Whatever level you're at, that is impressive, isn't it, Barnsley?
Yeah, it is impressive, but also you've got to think about, you know, I'm lucky to have, again, support like Cam, a good bunch of guys. You know, we don't recruit a lot, but there's just the people just turn up to play for us, and it's great. And without those sort of guys and the girls and, you know, the cattle in the yard, you don't have a good team. So I'm lucky to have that. It just makes my job easier.
And you've obviously been around for so long, you've seen teams, you're out now in this new team. I guess it's not so new anymore, is it, South West London Chargers? But how is it, or how does it compare to what you've seen in the 10 years that you've been here, in terms of where the club is, or where it sits within the spectrum?
It's only early days yet. I was with the Sharks for the 8 years as well, and we built up a really good rapport with the Sharks and built a good team, good atmosphere. But then putting the two teams together just made it so much easier. We've got some great guys, we've got some great workers. Again, you know, without Cam as well, nothing would have happened. So to put it as early doors, it's great. You know, it couldn't get any better at the moment, but there's a lot of work to be done. And you know, there's a few things that we need to be doing to make it even better. Getting juniors would be great for the club itself. To have that feeder through would be great. To keep the girls going as well, but also to get a clubhouse in our own ground would be probably the icing on the cake. So hopefully that'll be our aim, and then we can go on from there.
I was going to ask sort of how you see making having a sustainable future. I mean, I was chatting to Jason Henley, who used to be involved at Greenwich Admirals. You know, their club doesn't exist anymore. It's hard work, you know, and sometimes it's down to a couple of people, and if those people aren't around anymore, then clubs do go under. I mean, how do you make your club more sustainable? Because you can look at it however you want, but especially in a voluntary sector, it's difficult, isn't it?
It's very difficult, but you've got to have a core group of guys where everyone pulls together. You're always going to get new people in, which is great, but you've got to get them involved. You can't just sort of have a close-knit sort of clique sort of thing. You've got to get more people involved. The more people you get involved, the easier it's going to be to sustain it. And again, you know, having Cam and myself and a couple of other boys to do it, it's just growing and growing. So the more people we get in, the more people you can sort of tie into the club, and hopefully the easier it'll get.
And Cam, from your point of view, I mean, in terms of a future for South West London Chargers, you've had a great successful year. You obviously want to carry that on, but what do you do next to sort of make yourself more robust?
I think you just got to keep doing what we're doing, which is, Chargers is a family. You just got to make it so everyone's involved. Just what Barnsley said, new guys come in, you embrace them, you make them feel part of the community, part of the team. We had close to 100 players play for the men's and 40 players play for the women's this year. But every single one of those are important. We're not a clique, we're not a little group. We're a club, and that's what you make. We don't
turn anyone away. We don't turn anyone away. Everyone's there to learn. Everyone's learning over time. So the more people we get, the better the opportunity is. The more people get involved, and they're learning about rugby league. So if we can keep that up, and just turn it over, it'll be even better. So.
As they say, every little helps, and you're doing your little bit for the game in London. I mean, what next for you next year on the field? I mean, you can't look any. Well, you can't do any better, any worse. You've just got to be looking to do the same thing again, haven't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, we won the Harry Jepson back-to-back, which no club had ever done, but no one's ever won it 3 times either. So there's another record we can try and achieve. But we're a long way away from that. It starts in the end of January, start of February with the Challenge Cup. We're back in it again next year, so that's where we'll start. Early training sessions in the dark in January again, and we'll go from there.
So those are the two guys from South West London Chargers in Cam Paul and Mark Barnes, both having very successful years recently and looking to go bigger and better. And of course, it starts with the Challenge Cup, doesn't it? Early next year. So another long season for them coming up, and let's see how far they can go potentially in the Challenge Cup in 2015. Good luck to them in all of their competitions which they take part in. And I thought it was just worth including this bit of audio towards the end of the podcast whilst I was at the London RL Awards. One of the I say a guest speaker, it wasn't really a guest speaker, it was just they invited Rob Powell, of course, the head coach of Medway Dragons, former head coach of London Broncos, and now appointed as the head of youth at the Broncos. And as far as I understand, he's going to carry on doing his head coaching of Medway Dragons. He's going to carry on working on a couple of other contracts that he's built up over the last few years. So I guess he won't be devoting all of his time as such or per se to the Broncos. And had a quick chat with him sort of off tape on Friday, just as he sat down behind me before the awards started. So managed to get a couple of bits in. It sounds like he's taken on responsibility for a lot of things, but maybe not necessarily as much as a usual head of youth would. I think maybe Danny Ward and Chris Baxter are still going to run the academy team as such, but Rob Powell will look at development and things like that. So I suppose he maybe not doing 5 days a week, 4 days a week, part-time as such, in an official capacity, taking on the role of head of youth. So again, Rob doesn't really get into this within what he said, but he was invited to the front because, of course, the people in the room are the people that he's going to be dealing with, and the aspiring people who he may want to look at in terms of putting them on scholarships and things like that. So it was Rob's opportunity just to explain to them what his role was, and I thought while he was explaining to them, might as well record it and you can hear it as well. So here is Rob Powell talking to the room at the London RL Awards.
Evening everyone, thank you Darren. Basically I just wanted to, Darren asked me to come up and say a couple of things about what I'll be doing, and it was relevant because of the people that are in the room here, just so you understand how it's going to work. So effectively, my role is going to take over anything up to under 16. So all the scholarship stuff, manage those programmes, the selection, recruitment of players onto those programmes, and then the things that we need to do underneath that, which involves some stuff about making sure that you guys out there as clubs are comfortable with what you're doing and making sure that you've got the support that you need to create the players that we want that are going to go on and play in Super League. So just to carry on from Martin's bit there, those players that he mentioned, Tony Clubb and Lou McCarthy-Scarsbrook, I coached them as under-19s, and Dan Sargentson got his first start in a game at Salford when I was head coach of the first team. So the development of the London players for me is something that's very close to my heart and something that's very important. So I know there's been miscommunications at time and some bad relationships probably over the last couple of years with some of the community clubs. I'll be honest about that. And my role is going to be in order to try and help resolve those issues and make sure that there is a point of contact for clubs, that people have somewhere they can go to speak to. I'll be out and about, going to clubs, making sure that we've got the right players, speaking to the coaches, giving them the support they need, and making sure that there is someone there out there that is watching to see what's going on, just in a good way, not in a bad way, not the police, just to make sure that people have a understanding that they are being watched, and there is an opportunity for those kids and coaches to go through the pathway in a way that I've had the opportunity to do in the past. So as Martin said, I don't want to stand here for long, but as Martin said, I will be here all night. I'm willing to take any questions about how it will work or what it might work. I know there's been some things that have recently been publicised about a trial or some trials that the club are undertaking. I will be running the under-16s trial. That's open to anyone that's played Origin or has not played Origin, any community club players, anyone that you want to promote from your club is allowed to go to that trial. And we need to make sure that everyone's got a fair opportunity, because probably we've been guilty over the last couple of selection processes of not getting the right people onto the programme, and that's really important, which is why we want to make sure it's a fresh start, that people have the opportunity to do that, and that we get the right people there so that we can build more Super League careers for people like Joe Keys and all the other people that are great and can do all the things from London, and to continue that going. So I won't stand here. It's great to see everyone here. I've been here before, and it's a great room full of really important people. So keep on doing what you're doing, keep on trying, keep on coaching, keep on getting the players there, and we'll do our bit to make sure that we give opportunities for those people to get into the professional game and play Super League if that's the relevant thing for them. Cheers now.
Rob Powell, the head of youth for London Broncos, head coach at the Medway Dragons, and a consultant in rugby and various athletic projects at the moment. But of course, he'll be back involved with the Broncos for 2015, and it's good to see him back involved with the club. He was I think everyone you talk to says he's a good coach. Maybe just came along at the wrong time when the things weren't great at the Broncos, and it's good to see him back involved with things there. And that's it then for another Rugby League Down South podcast. Hope you enjoyed that one. Bit of a thrown together piece of just a collaboration of interviews. Well, you may well see a few of those over the next couple of months while we're in the closed season. I'll continue to do what I can. I've had a bit of time, so which is good. And just wanted to say good luck to obviously the international guys, everyone that's heading on to representative duties and things like that. There's been lads called into the Scotland training squad from the Broncos. Joe Keys is in the academy side for England, and Sargentson, of course, playing with the England side down under. Of course, then there's the small matter of the World Club Series, that they're called, the World Series, the World Cup Challenge, developed, expanded, improved, bettered for next year. That, of course, Louis McCarthy-Garsbrook will head off to with St Helens, so we'll try and catch up with Louis in his busy off-season, as it will be. But that's it for this edition of Rugby League Down South. Thank you once again for your downloads and your listens. Found a website or a podcast directory the day that was listing the numbers of clicks for some of these programs to be probably, I don't know, about 6 or 7 times what I thought they were. Now, this podcast directory may not be completely accurate. I have reason to doubt it. But if those numbers are true, it's amazing, and I appreciate your download, so thank you for listening. I'll be back with another Rugby League Down South very soon. Thank you.